Today, we're going to dive in and teach you everything you need to know about setting up a bank account for your business. Look, there's a lot of funding you can get for your business just based on how you manage your bank account. There's even a secret credit score that lenders use that we're going to talk about today that actually is determined based on how you actually manage your bank account. So if you want to get more money for your business, if you struggled to get funding and didn't realize that you can actually use your bank account as a way to be able to get money, if you want to see how lenders, credit issuers, look at your actual bank account and how it ties into the fundability. If you're frustrated with not being able to get the money you need from the banking system, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to decode it all. I'm going to teach you how to set up a bank account, everything you need to know, how to minimize the cost with setting up the bank account, how to use the bank account you set up to be able to set you up to get more funding for your business. We're even going to talk about how to make this happen if you've had issues before setting up or managing a bank account in the past. So let's dive in. So look, you got to set up a bank account for a lot of different reasons. First of all, it's important that you separate consumer and your actual commercial transactions. Okay, I'm still surprised that I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that are still using a personal bank account to manage their business. You just can't do that. There's commingling funds. There's a lot of other issues that you're going to create if you have personal and business expenses and deposits put into one bank account, not two. So you've got to separate them. The other reason that this is important is that it ties into your fundability. Look, the way that you set up your bank account, when you set up your bank account, a lot of factors tying to your bank account are looked at by lenders and credit issuers. There's even multiple credit scores we're going to talk about today that actually are used to determine if you should be approved for credit cards, if you should be approved for credit lines, for loans that you need to know about. This really ties into your fundability, your ability to get money from not just the banking system itself, but also from fintech lenders, credit card issuers. So it is a barrier to getting the money you need. We're going to talk about how to break down that barrier today. But another thing is a business bank account's a necessary financial tool for your success. It's something that helps you do a lot of things. It helps you maintain your business records for accuracy. It helps you prepare reports that you're going to need, whether you're raising capital, whether you eventually want to exit your business, that when you get to a point where you have bookkeepers, accountants involved, they're all going to need these records to be able to properly do your taxes and other financial documents for you. And again, it's very important because it helps you separate your consumer and your business expenses, but it also helps you. It's an important step in building credit for your business as well. So a lot of different reasons that you want to make sure that you have a business bank account set up. And somebody from Facebook says, I'm interested in becoming a partner and help my client get funding. Awesome. Give us a call. We'll talk to you more about all the benefits you get of offering business credit and financing as a service. Terry, good morning. And Anthony, good morning from YouTube. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And then, as I mentioned, it also helps with tax preparation. So a lot of vendors in the business credit building world will approve you for initial credit lines just because you have a bank account. It's that big of a deal for fundability that you have that bank account. And here's why. A lot of companies get started, but when you really are going to start operating and doing business, you set up the bank account. So in Florida, it's like $75 for me to go set up an entity. And a lot of people set up entities when they have a good idea. But to prove that you actually are using a business, one of the first things you do when it comes time to start collecting money and paying money out is you set up a bank account. So that's why vendors look at this so aggressively when determining if they should give you credit or not. And in cases where you actually have a bank account set up, that factor alone can be used to qualify you for many different vendors. Taxes are much easier to prepare. Accidentally commingling funds between consumer and business, as we mentioned, can be problematic. And again, it also allows you the ability to accept credit cards from your customers and debit cards from your customers. And you have a real uphill battle if you're trying to do business and you don't have the ability nowadays to accept these from customers. You can't expect them to pay with cash. You can't expect them to pay with a check all the time. Okay, so again, it makes it easier for you to let your customers do business with you as well, because it allows you to accept more types of payments from your customers. We're going to talk about today how accepting those types of payments opens up funding opportunities for you as well. So fees on bank accounts, very small, very manageable. A lot of companies won't even charge you fees because they want your other business as a result. So for example, online banking fees might be waived if you actually have business accounts versus consumer accounts. And there's a reason for that, because you're almost always going to have more money as your business grows in your business bank account than you do in your consumer. Businesses manage more funds. So banks, of course, if you understand the banking system, they're using the money you're putting into the banking system. They're ultimately investing that money and getting a rate of return. That's how banks make money. So they want to have the higher dollar account accounts. And that's what businesses have. Businesses have greater deposits. They maintain greater amounts of funds. So as a result of that, they're more inclined to waive fees and work with you on business accounts than they are with consumer. And also having a business banking relationship makes it a lot easier to get loans. Okay, there's a lot of things your banker can do for you once you set up a business bank account. I'll give you a perfect example. I was on vacation. I'll never forget, in my RV, exactly where I was standing, where I got the call from my business partner, Megan, and who's our COO at Credit Suite, and notified me that abruptly our merchant account just decided they didn't want to service our industry anymore. We lost our ability overnight to accept credit cards. Now, lessons learned here. You need to have multiple merchant accounts. But at the time, we didn't. And so we were in a bad way. We lost our ability to accept what accounts for 95% of the funds coming into the business. So I called my banker. She set me up with a merchant source from that bank. They approved us within 24 hours and we were back operating again. I can give you example after example after example of where they help with all different types of things, all different types of other products and services you're going to need to run your business. Your banker can help you with. So not only can it help you with that, but it opens up lines of communication, makes it easier to qualify for loans, for credit lines, for credit cards when you need them as well. And usually when you're getting them from your bank, that's where you're going to get the best terms. Okay. How you handle your business bank account is also information for a possible lender. And it happens two different ways. There's check systems, which is a whole credit report and scoring system that just looks at how you manage your bank account. Okay. You have a credit score for how you manage your bank account. And that credit score is oftentimes looked at by lenders and credit issuers. So you need to have a bank account and manage it responsibly to have that right score. You also have a secret bank rating that is used to qualify you for any kind of bank product, especially SBA loans. We're going to talk about that later today because you need to know how that bank rating works. And we'll get to that as we near the end of the training today, because if you don't have the right bank rating, you will never get a credit card, loan, or credit line from your bank. And I'm going to teach you how bank ratings work a little bit later. So lenders are tightening their belts again. When things change in the economy, they look at basic things like how your business is set up. And again, having your business bank account set up is a huge advantage when it comes to lenders and credit issuers than not. Okay, so consider this 2020 warning from acting comptroller of currency, Brian Brooks. We now have anecdotal reports of banks that are experiencing small business loan delinquency rates in the mid double digits on loan books that reflected strong cash flow expectations and pristine credit quality at the time of origination prior to local lockdown orders. And this all has to do with COVID. Such high delinquency rates have the potential to threaten the community, and mid-sized banks that are the economic lifeblood of local communities, a factor that your members should take into account in weighing the risks and benefits of lengthy continued lockdown orders. So I'm just showing you this to show that you need to make sure that you have bank accounts set up, because you can see that it's even addressed when the economic climates change, and the importance of making sure that you have a bank account set up and that you have a good relationship set up with your bank. So the banker you choose for your business is going to be really an advisor. As a matter of fact, literally 3 minutes before I started this, my banker just called me today because she's like, hey, are you aware of this? I'm like, I didn't know that. Can you fix that for me? And they fixed it for me. So you need to have a good relationship with your banker, because this is where you're going to control the majority of the money that's coming in and out of your business. So working with somebody who understands your business, who understands your industry, and building that relationship is really essential. So we actually have had some interesting things happen to us through COVID. And we've been able to work with our banker to say, look, we're not sure how to manage these situations. We've got unexpected cash flow coming in that actually didn't happen before, or lower cash flow or higher cash flow. Everybody's been affected. And so by talking to our bankers, they help us set up the right accounts, manage the right accounts, mitigate fraud, all kinds of things. And every time I think I walk into the bank and talk to my banker, she advises me of something I didn't know about. But it's even beyond that. When I've been in a crunch, I needed to send a wire, I needed to send money elsewhere through ACH, I've been able to just contact my banker and say, I'm not in a position where I can go in to the bank right now. I'm not even in a place where Regions is. Can you help me? And they help me. And they immediately get a response from them. I can't tell you again and again and again the examples of having a relationship with the banker and how much it will help you grow from a small to a mid to a large business. Okay, so a lot of lenders have a hard time assessing credit risk for businesses they know little about. They don't feel comfortable. And there's a lot to be said of the pull your banker has within that bank if approval decisions don't go your way and you need a little bit of extra help. So it's common to require profit and loss statements, tax returns, business credit, personal credit checks in the lending process, but it's far easier for lenders to underwrite financial risk when they really understand the industry, the business that you're in, and know a little bit more about you. Watch Out Media, good morning. Andre, thanks for coming in from YouTube. Willie, hello from Facebook. Thanks for coming in. And you say, where do you get the bank credit score? We're going to talk about the bank credit score as we near the end of the training today. Check systems. You can go to creditsuite.com/check systems, and it's CHEX checks systems, SYSTEMS. If you go to creditsuite.com/checks, CHEX systems, then you'll actually find a whole page there that helps you put alerts on your check systems report, helps you get your check systems report for free, helps you get your check systems credit score for free. So, and we'll talk about your bank rating later. And you should know that if you are working with Credit Suite as a client, we also help you do this. We help you get your LexisNexis credit report. We help you get your check systems credit report, and we help you dispute inaccuracies and update that to make sure that of the highest quality to give you the best chance of getting approved for credit and financing. Now, one of the first things you need to do is you need to set up a bank account. And there's an actual order of things you do when you set up a business. Typically, you're going to set up your entity, okay? And that's important for a number of reasons, but you've got to separate your personal and business liability, and setting up a business entity like an LLC or a corporation does that, okay? And you need to separate your business from you, okay? And that's done through business credit, but you don't need to do business credit right in the beginning, but having an entity set up, having an EIN set up, having a bank account set up are crucial steps to do that. Now, business credit can help your chances of getting funded, even when you can't get other kind of money. And when you can qualify for loans, credit lines, etc., then it helps you also get better terms on that. But you need to get your EIN after that. So the very first step is you got to set up your entity. And the reality is, the way I describe it is that you really need to even consider getting your address set up, getting your phone number set up, getting the name of your or getting a phone number, getting your address, getting your website, when you know the name's available in your state, and then get your entity. That way, when you set up your entity, you have the phone number, you have the address, you have the website, you have the email. It's all set up, and you don't have to go back and change it. One of the biggest mistakes small business owners make is that we go and we set up an entity first, then we set up our address, phone number, and we forget to change it with the Secretary of State. And that's the number one place lenders and credit issuers look at to make sure that the information on our applications is congruent with what's online. So it's better if you set those things up, then set up your entity, then go to irs.gov to get your free EIN number. That's the next step in the process. Now, after that, you then want to go set up your bank account. So when I do the three things to set up a new entity, it's set up an entity, get EIN, get bank account set up. And I've done this once, an experiment to see how long it takes. It took me 50 minutes, 50, to do all three. I was able to go online, set up the entity, go get my EIN, go to my bank account, set up the bank account in less than an hour's time. And it doesn't cost a lot of money to set up a bank account. Usually it's 20, 25 bucks. We'll talk about that as well. So the opening date of your bank account is very important. Here's why. Because if there's ever a question about when your business opened, lender will default to the bank account open rate or date. And let me explain what that means. Sometimes people buy shelf corporations, which you should never do. And what a shelf corporation does is it triggers a red flag on your business credit reports because there's an ownership change. So what happens is people that are using your credit report and getting alerts get alerted that there's been an ownership change. And there's a red flag on there for anybody in the future that looks at your entity. And when they see an ownership change in an entity, they then default to the date that ownership changed or the date of your bank account. So if you set up a bank account early in the process, then you'll have longevity for your business. And it's oftentimes used to determine how long your business has actually been open. It's one of the reasons that you want to set it up as quickly as possible. But you also should know that other credit scores like check systems, like your bank rating, which we'll talk about as we near the end of the training today, are also taking into account how long your bank account's been open. So you have multiple credit scores that are based on how long your bank account has been open. And lenders and credit issuers look at your bank account open date sometime as the start date of your business. So you've got to make sure that you get this set up as quickly as possible. That's why I do it same day, same hour. I'm setting up that entity and IRS or EIN because I know even if I'm not going to use the bank account for months, I know how important that bank account open date really is. Okay, so again, you've got to make sure that you do that because if your entity inception date is ever in question, that's what they're going to look at. So this is what you're going to need to set up a new bank account. Okay, you're going to need entity papers such as Articles of Incorporation. You usually get those right from your Secretary of State. I always choose the upgrade option in Florida to get them right away. If I don't, it takes me 2 weeks to get those. So it's $8 in Florida to get my Articles of Incorporation the minute that I set it up, the entity. I recommend that you do that. Don't not pay that money because you'll wait weeks to get what you need to set up your bank account. Then you want to go ahead and you're going to have to fill out a bank account application. You're going to need to have proof of the EIN. You'll get that as soon as you register for it with IRS.gov. You're going to need an ID. A lot of people ask me questions. A lot of people. This is actually one of the most common questions I get about bank accounts. Why do I need to provide my social security number? Why do I need to provide my identity, when I'm setting up a bank account? Here's why. The government, as of June of 2018, requires it. You see, the problem is even if you're setting up a bank account for your business, the government requires that the bank verify the owner of the business, and it's to prevent money laundering. As a matter of fact, United States is one of the last countries of the major countries in this world that's actually taken steps to prevent money laundering by making banks verify businesses actually have an owner. So you're going to have to provide your TIN. You're going to have to provide your social, one or the other. You're going to have to provide an ID. It's not the bank's requirement. It's the federal government's requirement to verify who you are. So again, they can help prevent money laundering. They don't have fraudulent companies and individuals setting up business bank accounts to funnel money through, illegally. And you're going to need initial deposit. Sometimes it ranges from $25 to $200 depending. That's what you're basically going to need to set up a bank account initially. And Lakeisha, good morning. Michael, thanks for tuning in as well. Deshaun says the marathon continues 2020. Terry, I did it all backwards, but now it's all together now. I didn't know. And Terry, that's a mistake a lot of people make. And the problem is, as Terry just said, when you set up these things the wrong order, you got to go back and correct it. And it oftentimes takes 5 times longer to correct it than just do it the right way. And good morning from College Station, Texas, Cheryl. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. And just so you know, that is my favorite state, Texas. I've lived there for a while when I was in the military. I absolutely loved several areas I got a chance to live. So how to properly set up the business bank account. So it's got to be set up the right way, and you've got to get it set up before you can start getting credit loans. So if you want to get money for your business, you need to get this done. And for example, the business name needs to match all of your paperwork. So this is one of the things lenders and credit issuers look at too. Your business name, your business address, your phone number, any of that stuff needs to match everywhere. That's why I gave you a very specific order. First, make sure your business name's available, and then make sure that URL is available, like Credit Suite, creditsuite.com. You don't want to probably start a business if you don't own the URL. Trust me, I've done it before. It creates all kinds of problems. So now I grab the URL, GoDaddy, $7. I own creditsuite.com, right? It wasn't $7, but just giving it as an example. So now I own my actual website. And now I go set up the address. I check the Secretary of State to make sure that that name's available. So I find Credit Suite, it's available. Okay, perfect. Now creditsuite.com, grab it. And then I go to Florida and I look to make sure that entity is, or that I can set up that entity. You can't have an entity with the exact same name in a state. There could be the same entity in 50 states, but you can only have one set up in a state. So if the name's available, I know it's available. Now I set up my address. Now I set up my phone number. Now I set up my email address. Now I go set up the Secretary of State because they're going to ask me for all that stuff. So is the IRS, and I already have it. So to get my EIN set up, set up my bank account, to set up my entity, I need all that stuff. And now I have all that stuff. And if you do it that way, now my bank account's going to be congruent with the Secretary of State and the IRS. See, it's all the same because I have the address, the phone number, the website, the email all done first. Then I set up entity, then I get IRS, set up EIN, then I set up bank account, and all my information is the same. If you don't do that, the problem is that you are going to have incongruencies, and it's one of the biggest reasons that loans get turned down. It's stupid. You think it's because of your income. You think it's because of your credit. It's not. The majority of loans get turned down because this stuff doesn't match, and they think it's fraud. They think your application's fraud. You get thrown out the door before it's even evaluated because this stuff doesn't match. It's so important. And you can't use a PO box or a UPS address typically. A PO box is going to be it's going to be prohibited with a lot of bank accounts. They're just not going to accept it, just so you know that. And again, you need to make sure that all that information is congruent. And then we talked about this. Information and congruency is important for financial records, income taxes, web and email address, 411 listings, your bank account, any online and offline listings. You need to make sure that's set up. Think about it. You and I are exposed to fraud every day. Okay, that's an ongoing joke in Credit Suite. I was out like last week at the mastermind, and I came back and they said, hey, Ty, why were you requesting so many gift cards when you're out, right? Because there's that joke because people come in, they try to impersonate me and ask my team members to get gift cards on my behalf. There's all kinds of scams. Imagine being a freaking bank. These guys are inundated with fraud. So what happens is that when you apply for a loan, and your address is different with Secretary of State, and your phone number is different with 411, and everything doesn't match. All these things throw up red flags in the computer, and the computer spits it out as potential fraud. Then it goes to a person that now has a computer tell them the application is fraud, and guess what? They start saying it's not fraud, and it ends up being fraud. They're not going to keep their job very long. So the application oftentimes gets denied for fraud reasons when it's not fraud. That's why you've got to make sure that all this information is congruent. When it comes to fundability, it's one of the most important things that you really need to make sure that you're doing. Okay, and actually, we'll talk about that. I got some questions here, but I'm going to scroll. I'm trying to scroll up here because I have a bunch of questions that came in, but I will get into those here in just a minute. Let me get to one slide, and then I'll get into some of these questions. Okay, so how to properly set up a business bank account? Well, most are going to require that you go in. With COVID, it's a little bit easier now. I think some of them are actually finding other solutions like doing virtual setup. And my bank has actually allowed me to do a lot more stuff through email and other means than I ever have before. And with COVID, you typically have to have an appointment. My bank requires an appointment now before I walk in the door, just so you know that. And then you're going to get a folder before you leave. Personally, I tell them, keep it, like, let's save trees. And then almost everything they give me ends up being something I can shred. But there's always one important document that has your account number, typically has your routing number, and has any online ID they're setting up for you. But the rest of the stuff, I used to hold it and keep it. I don't. If you look through it, it's just all their terms and conditions. Review it once. If you don't need it, then discard it. I've never really used that stuff beyond the bank account, account number, routing number, and online login. That stuff you need. The rest of the stuff you typically aren't really going to need with all the documents that they're actually going to give you. And Sacred says, can the corporation be set up as a standalone and get business credit and lines of credit without personally guaranteeing the lines of credit? Yes, you absolutely can do that. It's easier to get credit cards and credit loans. And I think that's one of the biggest myths of entrepreneurs. Everybody's seeking credit lines, but credit lines and credit cards are very similar. And credit cards are very easy to get without a personal guarantee. Credit lines will take more established business credit to get it. And he says, my first time here. Hello, Terry. Thanks for blessing us here. I appreciate that. Van, I'm not going to try to pronounce your name, but I appreciate you coming in from YouTube. And Nico says, is it true when you have $15,000 in a business checking account, it starts credit card offers? That's not necessarily true, but it's a great question. And I'm going to teach you in a few minutes why it's a great question. It's not 15,000. It is a different amount we'll talk about. And this is your bank rating. This is how your bank rating works. And the bank rating is what's triggering that. So we'll talk about that. But you are on the right track. And before we finish up, we're going to talk about bank rating, how it works. And we're going to talk about what you need in your bank account minimally to start getting those kind of offers that you're getting. So, but I like that. It's like it's like foreshadowing of what's to come. So great question. So the bank probably has a recommendation on where you can get checks. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, so my banker won't even order checks for me. She insists I go elsewhere. And I like to ask her, I'm like, okay, I'm just curious for the minimum amount of checks, like how much is that? And it's like $200 and something. So, and they use Heartland Clark. And since fewer people are using Heartland Clark, they keep raising prices. So here's my advice. Don't get checks from your bank. Don't do it. Okay, you can go to Staples, you can go to Office Depot, you can go to like Vistaprint, I think. There are plenty of places online you can go to get checks for a fifth of the price. So also don't get what they need. They're always going to try to sell you more checks than you need. Or they're going to try to sell you a business starter kit. You don't need any of that crap that's in a business starter kit. You don't need it. So you don't go in there. If you're working with a good banker, they'll advise you to not even do it. But you don't need a starter kit. Don't even get checks from your bank. Order them online. It's going to be 1/5 typically. I mean, it could be 1/3, 1/5. With my bank, it's 1/5 of the cost when I order online versus using their source. So something to consider there. And don't get a large amount of checks. Get 25, 50, because those could last you for quite some time as a startup business, and eventually you'll need more. Okay. A starter kit includes a binder, bag for deposits, company seal, other items. You don't need it. I mean, I've never used it. The binder for checks I use, but a bag for deposits, a company seal and stamp, I don't need any of that stuff. And if you want this stuff, get it on Amazon, get it online for like a fraction of the cost. Your bank's markup it's absurd how much money they're charging. So you can get most of what's in the starter kit, as I mentioned, cheaper online, and you don't have to order 250x checks either. And so it just makes it a lot more affordable. So let's talk about credit scores, okay? Many people don't know that there's a bank rating or a bank credit score. And again, I think here it was, who was it that just mentioned this? Not Nico had mentioned this. So here's how this works. There's a secret credit score you'll never see. You'll never actually see what this credit score is. It is protected within the banking system. It is used by banks. They openly share this. Okay, it's called a bank rating. As a matter of fact, if you look it up on YouTube or online, I'm probably the only guy you're even going to see that even discloses this and talks about it, because it's what we do at Credit Suite. We talk to you about all this secret information these guys are using to make all kinds of decisions about you. And so this rating looks at a lot of things, but basically the primary driver of it is how much money you keep on average in your bank account over a 90-day time period. And you need to have a minimum of a $10,000 balance in your bank account to have what's called a low 4 bank rating, or excuse me, a low 5 bank rating. So you have low 4, mid 4, high 4, low 5, mid 5, high 5. And it's all primarily driven, I'm going to talk about what else it's driven by how much money you keep on average in your bank account over a 90-day time period. The bare minimum you need to have a low 5, which is what makes you bankable in the banking system, is $10,000. If you don't have $10,000 or more, you will not, on average over 90 days, you will not get an SBA loan. You probably will not get any other kind of loan from the bank. You probably will struggle to even get a credit card from the bank. And as Nico had pointed out, and Nico's exact question is it true when you have $15,000 in a business checking account, it starts credit card offers? So it's not 15, it's 10 grand. And yes, because that pushes you to a low 5 bank rating, and that starts triggering, as Nico had pointed out, credit card offers and all kinds of other things from your bank, because when they see that you keep maintaining that, you're a low 5. Now, if you want to have the highest, you get 70,000. If you keep 70,000 or more on average in that bank account, that will give you a high 5 bank rating. And as Nico has basically pointed out, that escalates the amount of approvals or amount of offers of funding that you start getting from your bank. So now, and I love this question from Nico, because Nico pointed out that this is how the system works. This is where these offers are coming from. It's primarily driven by this bank rating. There's more to it, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And Anthony says, if I already have all that, what's my next step? Hopefully I've walked through that already. Watch Out Media says, wondering if the proof of address is required when opening a bank account like utility bill. It typically isn't. It depends. I never need to provide a proof of address when I set up a bank account, but it really depends on your bank. And Jennifer says, good morning. Set up my business bank account yesterday. Thank you so much. Well, I am one day late for you, Jennifer. I'm sorry about that. I would have liked to actually been able to get this training to you before you actually set up that bank account. So an average daily account balance of $10,000 for the past 3 months gives you the low 5 bank rating. Okay, and it relates to an adjusted debt balance of $5,000 to $30,000. A low rating, like a high 4, is a balance of $7,000 to $10,000. You don't want to be there. That's a high 4, and it continues to go lower. But remember, when you're in the 4s, it's not easy to get money from the banking system. Okay, this rating, and here's actually how the bank rating system works. Again, I don't want to say promise, but I pretty much assure you that I'm the only person that will ever teach you this. Okay, this is not stuff that you're going to find online. So take a screenshot of this right now, because this is like gold. This is the bank rating system that they use. The highest you're going to get is 70,000 or more average balance over 90 days. Mid 5 is 40 to 69,000. Low 5 is 10 to 39,000. That's the lowest to be bankable. You get into the 4s, it doesn't even matter. The minute you get down into the 4s, you got problems. So the moral of the story is that before you go get a loan from your bank, you need to have at least 10,000 on average in that bank account over 90 days. Make sure you put that money in there and let it sit so it can season over a 90-day time period, and you can have the bank rating that you actually need. Okay, now there's also more than just that. So to ensure a high enough balance, or to ensure that you have a high score, you've got to make sure that that money's in there. You got to make sure that it's in there every cycle of basically that 90 days. And it's not enough just to do that. Okay, the bank rating also looks at your overall bank account management. So they want you to make consistent deposits. They want you to have a positive ending bank balance at the end of every month. It holds it against you when you have non-sufficient funds. It is better if you have multiple accounts from your bank. So for example, we have multiple checking accounts. We have a money market account. When you have multiple accounts from your bank, it also gives you a higher bank rating as well. So all of those kind of things tie into the bank rating. It's not just based on your average balance. It's based on overall bank account management. That's why you should go to creditsuite.com/check systems, CHXY or CHX systems, then SYSTESM, and get a copy of your check systems report, because that will actually show you how you are managing your bank account. Now, again, as we talked about, without that, you're just really going to struggle to get money from the banking system. It's the way that it is. And with it, as Nico had pointed out, that's what triggers a lot of the offers you're getting for loans, credit lines, and credit cards from your bank as well. Okay, here's the other factors that we talked about. How long you've had your account open. Remember, I told you that was important for check systems and the bank rating. So we need to get that bank account open early. The consistency of the deposits, positive cash flow means more money going in than going out. Okay, how many bank products you have, savings accounts, investment accounts, all those type of things we talked about become very, very, very important. Now, the more bank programs you use, maintain, the more type of accounts, CDs, things like that, then the higher that bank rating can also be, the better that that's going to be. So now we talked a little bit about check systems. Let's talk about that a little bit more, okay? It really does have to do with personal accounts, but you need to know check systems because it's oftentimes looked at for you as an entrepreneur to determine how you basically manage your finances, because it's such an important deal. Remember, lenders always want to make sure that you can pay back the debt you get. And the best way to do that is to see how you typically manage money. And you might not realize this, but check systems is a system that's used to score how you actually manage money. So they're looking for a lot of information on how you manage your bank account, your habits there. They're look at NSFs, how many closed accounts you've had, how many overdrafts you've had. Okay, a lot of people don't even realize that this thing exists, but it does. And here's the problem. You can't even open bank accounts if you have been dinged in check systems. So what happens is if you defaulted on a bank account, and I'll give you a real example from my world, okay? So the first business I ran was a mortgage company. Mortgage crisis occurred, lost everything. This is why I got into business credit, because I personally guaranteed everything. I didn't know at the time that a solution was out there. I didn't know business credit existed. Once I figured it out, like, I've made it my mission to teach you so you don't have what I'm about to describe actually happen to me. And so then as a result of that, I defaulted on a Bank of America credit line, right, that I had personally guaranteed because I didn't know about business credit. So then what happened was Bank of America waited, because I had personal accounts with them, till I had the most amount of money that I had in my personal accounts, and they swiped it, took it all. Now, you and I both know that the money in your bank account isn't really money that's there. You have checks written against it, et cetera. So I had checks bounce and all kinds of bad things happen because they took money that I had checks written against, et cetera. So then I walked away from the account because it was thousands of dollars negative because they took all the money out right before the checks and stuff hit. And so it became a problem for me to get other bank accounts because I defaulted on that bank account and I got into check systems as a result. That's the kind of stuff and damage that check systems can cause. And for many years to come, it then becomes very difficult to actually set up another bank account. So how do you make sure that you're good in check systems and good with your bank rating? Avoid overdrafts, avoid non-sufficient funds, avoid closing. I avoid fees in banks by linking bank accounts. So I have multiple checking accounts or savings accounts, and I link them. So if one ever defaults, like, they take the money from the other one and I don't have non-sufficient fund charges. You want to do that, not just because of the non-sufficient fund charge, but because non-sufficient funds really mess up your check system score and your bank rating scores. You don't want that to happen. So you link your bank accounts and have an account that has some money in it. So even if you do overdraw, it pulls it from that other account. You don't have those kind of NSFs. So a little tip that can help you there. Avoid closing accounts if possible. A negative check system report could hinder your ability to get a business bank account. But it's not just that it hinders your ability to get a bank account. It hinders your ability to get money in general. Okay, so a lot of things to be able to consider there. And let me see here. I got a bunch of questions. Is there business bank accounts that you can recommend for someone who has lower credit score? Your credit score is not going to matter. Your credit score doesn't matter unless it's check systems and you defaulted on another credit. So you're going to be able to walk in and be able to get all kind of bank account at pretty much any bank. Chase, Citi, your personal credit's not going to matter. What does matter is if you've defaulted on bank accounts in your check systems. That's why you should go to creditsuite.com/check systems. And now you can look at my slide and see how to spell it and just get a copy. I give you a link there to get a free copy of your credit report. See what's on there. That's what's going to prohibit you from opening your bank account, not your personal credit, just so you know that. And most important word of the day is congruent. Yes, it's a very important. Watch out, media. And Cheryl M says, are there that actually we talked about that question already. And Sacred Space says, when you have say more established credit, about how long does it take to get let's say $250,000 in line of credit. The problem isn't how long, Sacred. The problem is that if you want a $250,000 line of credit, you should be doing millions of dollars in revenue and have pretty significant profit to do that, because you have to prove that the money that you have coming in supports a $250,000 credit line. So that's not about how long you've been in business. A $250,000 credit line, that's something you're getting into 3, 4, 5 million in revenue before you're getting to something like that. So the important note here is that if you want a $250,000 credit line, then, in that case, they're going to look at the number of employees you have. They're going to look at your business credit reports. They're going to look at your income. They're going to look at a lot of other factors other than just your business credit to be able to determine that. Now, my advice to you is, you're asking about the same mistake all entrepreneurs make. Stop chasing a $250,000 credit line. Instead, look at $20,000, $50,000 credit cards or lines and piece them together to get to $250,000. Way easier than $250,000. If you wanted to get to $250,000, you're doing millions of revenue at that point. Anthony says, is the amount in the business savings account included in that amount? It's one account. So your bank rating is going to look at your one primary account is what they're going to look at, not all the average of over all of your accounts. And Nico says, thank you. And Arlie says, does it matter of the year or the year and date of when the business was open? We talked about that. It does matter a lot. It calculates into check systems. It calculates into credit, your bank rating. And it's also used by lenders to determine when your business was open. So that bank account start date is a very important thing. So bank account, essential to the fundability of your business. It's important to your credibility. Okay, that is one of the most important lessons today. Determines if you're going to get loans. Just by having business bank accounts set up and running money through them, funding like revenue lending or merchant cash advances become possible just based on how you manage your bank account. There's a great credit line at creditsuite.com/fundbox. FUNDBOX. That's creditsuite.com/fundbox. You can get approved for up to $100,000 just based on how you manage your bank account. If you manage your bank account responsibly and your credit's even okay, then you'll get approved for a small credit line. If you supply your financials, they'll typically approve you up to 30 grand. Once you start using that credit line, you can get approved for as much as 100 grand just based on how you manage your bank account. So revenue lending, merchant cash advances, that credit line at creditsuite.com/fundbox. Blue Vine has a credit line that's based on how you manage your bank account as well. A lot of those funding options become available just because you actually have managed your bank account responsibly and have revenue coming in. Don't forget, you can't really check your bank rating, but you can check check systems at creditsuite.com/check systems. And now you know how those secret credit scores work and how to manage your bank account responsibly to have the best chance of having high scores there, which opens up a lot of different funding options for you. So if you have questions, if we can help along the way, give us a ring, 877-600-2487. If you got value, hit the like button. A lot of you have liked this, and I really appreciate that. So please, that's all I ever ask. Like, I try to pour my heart into this, and all I ask in return is just like this, love this, because what happens is you're telling the social channels that this was valuable and helps people, and then they'll show it to more people. And if you don't engage, they don't show it to more people. So all I ask is just like. And if you really like it, well, then subscribe to us on the channel of choice that you're watching on now. If you're on YouTube, ring the bell beside the subscribe button and select all so you get notified when we go live. Don't forget, if you give us a call at 877-600-2487, we're going to do a free consultation with you. What we do on a consultation is 3 main things. One, we see if your fundability is jacked up now. We talked about a lot of things that will mess up your fundability. If you just want us to check that for you, we will on that phone call. We also help you get your business credit reports with Experian, Equifax, and Dun & Bradstreet for free. They're $249 if you get them from the bureaus. On a call, they're free. We go over them with you. We give you tips and tactics to establish and build your business credit. And then we just do a funding assessment. We tell you all the funding you can qualify for right now, some of it based just on how you manage your bank account and having consistent revenue. We'll do all of that on that phone call. And if you got value from this, like and subscribe to other social channels at the top of creditsuite.com. We go live on Tuesday and Thursday at 11 o'clock on Wednesday, all Eastern time, on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and LinkedIn. If you're on our channels, you can comment and engage and see that I engage back in real time. Okay. And you can also check out our podcast, 365,000 downloads on our podcast. So it's very popular. Not only do we teach you business credit financing, but we have a lot of people come on that teach a lot of cool things. My guest yesterday was teaching Facebook ads and everything you need to know to set up Facebook ads, security, selling a business, exiting properly with the most amount of money. All these kind of things from top entrepreneurs in their fields all takes place on our podcast. And we have a playlist on YouTube with that information as well. And don't forget Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're releasing daily tips on those channels as well. So let me see if there's any other questions before we wrap up. Has anyone tried the Credit Strong Magnum stuff? I'm not sure of that one. I'm not familiar with that, but if you email us, I'd like to look into that more. And that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for tuning in. Look for our next training on how to get business credit financing. And remember, if you got value, please like and love the video. If you don't mind, just hit that. That's all I ask. And even share it to other people. It means a lot to me. And I look forward to seeing you on our next training where we talk about more cool ways to get money for your business. Thanks, everybody.